Oh, I forget there's a lag there. Welcome to episode 21 of the Monsters of Geek podcast, and it's all about wrestling this week as we have our all-star cast and people that use their political power to keep on top. We are the top faction of Monsters of Geek. We have our World Heavyweight Champion, the guy that we always run in and save, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Jared Collins. What's up, buddy?
Hey, how are you?
Good. We have our lawyer that gets us out of title defenses and can swing one mean briefcase. Daniel, what's up, buddy?
Hey, man, how's it going? It's good to be here.
Good. And our one and only, the best gimmick ever, the guy that puts himself over everyone except for Jared, the Yeti.
Your time's coming up, Jared.
Here I am, like we're the best stable, and Joe's like, "Man, here I come, Jared. I will take your title." Come on, man.
I know we gotta have some kind of tension in the stable.
Joe's gonna be the John in WCW '90s that always joined the NWO and then got kicked out, and then joined the NWO and kicked out, and it's all because he wants the title. So Joe's gonna be that guy.
It's almost like DX. Me and Jared can be Triple H and Shawn Michaels. You're China, and Daniel is Rick Rude.
Why do I have to be China? At the very least, I should be Rick Rude. I'm the host of the show.
Daniel's the lawyer, though.
That's true.
And Rick,
that's true.
So.
But there's other DX members. I'll even be Road Dogg.
We're the
not the original.
That's true. Oh, man. All right.
Puts a whole new meaning to One Night in China.
Oh, God.
Am I going to have to put the explicit tag on this?
We're off to a great start, guys.
We had a good time before we even started recording. I did call out. I was like, we're all going to sound like we're drunk and none of us drink. So this is going to be a great episode. This may be our best episode ever. All right. So like I said, we'll talk about some wrestling show again. If you're just joining us, this is your first episode. You just want to sit around and listen to us. We'll talk wrestling. We do separate our shows. Next week we will cycle back around to bring your own topic. So everybody will be on here and bring their own topic to discuss for next week. But we split it up so we can talk about more stuff in depth instead of trying to stuff all of geekdom under one hour to hour and a half podcast. So, but every show we do, we go over the key releases for the week. So this is key releases for August, the week of August the 8th, I believe. And movies have been kind of sparse. We had Suicide Squad, which I'm sure we'll talk about on the movie podcast when that rolls back around. But this week, I'm pretty stoked for this one. And we've talked about how good, how well we've all kind of liked the live-action re-releases of classic Disney movies. This week coming out is Pete's Dragon, starring Robert Redford, Bryce Dallas Howard, and directed by David Lowery, who doesn't have a ton of directorial experience, I guess. I didn't really see any movies that I recognized when I looked up the history for him. We usually have in our notes, hey, this is so-and-so, he directed what, this movie, kind of see what kind of style they do. He doesn't have much. He has more writing than he does in production stuff than he does directing, but hopefully it'll be good. It seems like the previews have been really good. Guys, do you think this one will be as good as the other ones, or do you think this is, because to be quite honest, they just started kind of playing the previews or the trailers a little bit. I only saw them a couple weeks back. I hadn't really seen a lot of them. Do you think Disney's kind of pushing this under and be like, this is going to be okay, but not as good as the other ones, or do you have high hopes for this one? Go ahead, Jared.
I have actually I've known about it for quite a while. I think probably 3 or 4 months ago I saw the first trailer for it, and at first I was a little leery of it. I didn't know doing a remake of Pete's Dragon. That's I always enjoyed it when I was little, and it's one of Robin's favorite movies. And hearing the later trailers, though, they've looked really good. I actually I didn't read the IGN review. I always just scroll down the bottom and look at the score.
Everybody does, Jared. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, and I think they gave it like an 8.5. So I think we may take the girls to go see it. I think it looks really good. The cast is solid. I mean, it's got Robert Redford in it. You can't go wrong there. And then it's also got the lady she was in Jurassic World.
Bryce Dallas Howard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen a
Village.
bad movie with her in it. She was even good in Terminator Salvation or whatever. That was a bad movie.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't
Yeah.
she in The Village?
Yeah,
Yes.
she's in the Village
Main
too.
character in that.
So it's a good solid cast. So I'm hoping it does good. It doesn't seem like it's getting a big push though.
Joe, what do you think, man? You excited about this?
I am. I think it's one of those titles that really don't need a big push. I don't think they pushed Jungle Book that much either. I mean, I seen Pete Magic Dragon in theaters, the trailers, but not on TV. And it's the same thing with Jungle Book, I think.
Yeah, it seems like they waited, and I do agree on Jungle Book because I had forgotten about it until I actually saw it during a movie as a trailer. So as far as I can remember, we may be wrong, but I don't remember them pushing it, but maybe a month before it actually came out. So, Daniel, what do you think about Pete's Dragon? You excited about that?
I actually never saw the original. Just not something that I ever watched. So, I guess I don't really. I mean, yeah. So I don't really have any, I guess, connection to the title. But I hope you guys enjoy it.
Have you seen any of the? I think everybody else. One of our classic moments on these episodes was when me and Jared and Andrew was talking about how cool we like Cinderella and all that good stuff. And Joe looked at us and was like, "What in the heck are you guys talking about?" You could tell we were all three married, and Joe's not because he's like, "I ain't gonna see that movie." What do you think about the ones that they've released so far? Cinderella and Jungle Book has been fantastic. Have you seen any of them, or have any stake in them?
I wish I'd had, man. I wish I had. Having a little girl has pretty much ruined my movie my movie viewing experiences. So, I mean, I love the originals, the animated movies, but I haven't been to see a movie. I got to see Star Wars, and then before that, it was well before my baby came along. So I can't remember the last time I was at a movie before Star Wars.
I do recommend when Jungle Book comes out on Blu-ray, I do recommend seeing Jungle Book. That was really, really good. If you don't see any of them, see that one because that was really good.
Yeah, don't lose your man card. See Cinderella.
Oh, it's gone, man. It's been gone for years. Don't worry about that. But actually, Jungle Book, the original cartoon, that's the first movie I ever remember seeing like in the movie theater. So I definitely want to see the live action version of that.
It works really well. I think it's probably the best movie I've seen this year. So and that's saying a lot. I mean, as far as, well, not really, because I've seen Batman vs. Superman and Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters was good, but,
Wait, can we please say which live-action version of Jungle Book you want to see?
Yeah, the Disney one.
Okay, because there's two.
Yeah, the other one's not coming out till next year, right?
No, the other one's been out, dude.
Oh, okay, I don't remember that one.
It's an old, it was back in the 90s.
Jared, do you remember that one?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who was in it?
Oh my gosh. I know my cousin had it on VHS. That's all I remember. I watched it one time, but it wasn't anything special.
No.
It didn't hold there was no talking animals in it. It wasn't like the Disney version.
They filmed it down in South Carolina.
All right, well, you learn something new every day on this podcast. All right, so let's move on. That's all the movies this week coming out. Video games, we're starting to get into some really good games. August looks really good. But we have Ollie Ollie Epic Combo Edition, which I don't know if anybody's have played the Ollie Ollie games. It's on the PS4. It's kind of like a 2D version of Tony Hawk Pro Skater. It's really, really fun. I prefer it on the Vita myself. I've got both on the PlayStation 4. I'm not a huge fan of it. Just doesn't seem to control correctly, but on the Vita, it just seems like it's made for the Vita, which I think the first one was just a Vita title until they ported it over. But this one's got Ollie Ollie 1 and 2, and of course some special commentaries and some stuff, and actually a physical release. This isn't just a download, it's actually a physical release. So I definitely recommend, if you have a Vita, to go out and get it. I think it's on the 3DS. The first one's on the 3DS as well, so go check those out. And then, of course, the one that has been 2 years, almost 3 years in the making, the only No Man's Sky, the mythical No Man's Sky is actually going to be released next week. It'll be the 9th. Both of these will be released. Excuse me. Daniel, talk about No Man's Sky a little bit. I'm not for sure if I'm going to get it, I don't know if I'm the I guess I don't know if I'm the audience for it. It looks really cool. It looks really pretty. What's your take on No Man's Sky? Are you excited about it? Or are you just going to wait till kind of the reviews come in?
I'm gonna wait on it, but you know the interesting story about this is how the hype behind this game is very high. Here we've got this game that says we've got this algorithm that's going to program a galaxy, and there's going to be, I think it was like 18. Correct me if I'm wrong, but like 18 quintillion different planets that you could explore. Just in a ridiculous amount of space, and it's a space explorer. You know, you build a ship, you explore the galaxy, you explore planets, you can name planets that you find. You know, you mine for resources, all this. So there's a lot going on with it. Have you all heard about the leak that basically happened this week?
Yeah.
That guy paid what? How much money he paid for that? 1,300 or 3,000, something like that.
Well, I'm not sure, but it's been pretty rough because whoever was posting, I guess spoilers or you know his impressions of the game, they've not been very good. You know, he's been kind of critical of the game, and you know people that have been looking forward to the game have been really upset about it. So I don't know. I think that may hurt him a little bit. Sounds like. I even read that there was some stores in New York were like breaking street date, and they'd already been selling copies of the game. So you know it's not off to a good start. But there's a lot of promise behind it, and I actually did hear that they were gonna wipe the servers on Tuesday. So anything that's happened up until now will just get wiped out. So anybody who's explored or done a lot will just, you know, I guess they'll lose all their progress. But yeah, I'll let you guys talk. I mean, see what you all think.
Well, I mean, as far as what I understand, the guy that paid for it, I don't know how he got it, but he paid for an early copy. Now I don't know how the other person got it to actually sell it to him. But from what I understand, he went, like, his whole goal was to get to the center of the Earth. And he said it was like 30
Center of the
hours.
Galaxy.
Center of the Galaxy, right. Sorry, Center of the Earth, yeah. Sorry, this isn't Brendan Fraser. Okay, as far as, that's not really the core of the game. Like, people want to get to the center of the galaxy, but from what I understand about the game, you know, it's going to be more than just 30 hours. Like, you could get as many hours out of this game because of how it automatically regenerates things. They're always kind of adding stuff. Even the studio is like, we don't know what's all out there. Like, we just got to make these things. They regenerate and they kind of pop up, and you go visit them. And the guy was kind of complaining about, oh, it's only 30 hours. 30 hours is pretty good regardless of what game you're playing, especially nowadays. 30 days is actually a pretty good haul as far as what you can do, and then you add everything else that can do it. So I think I didn't see any other ones that got it early as far as reviews. That's the only one that I had read. But the guy, I was like, but that's not the point of the game. Like, it's not. I mean, I'm sure you want to get to the center of the galaxy, but you want to do everything else as well and kind of discover this land. Jared, are you looking forward to No Man's Sky, or is this something that's, you know, as far as it looks great, like it looks pretty, and I kind of want to see it on my TV, you know, as far as how good it's going to look, but I just don't know how much of a game it is. I'm not really for sure.
When I first saw it, I thought it was really interesting. But will I pick it up? No, probably not. I just don't have the time to put into it. But, you know, it does seem like a very interesting game just because, you know, every planet you explore, you know, there's something different there. It's like basically like a never-ending game. You could explore, you know, like Daniel said, I think it was 18 quintillion planets. So what's the odds of somebody making it that far? So it's interesting, but I don't think I'll be picking it up.
Joe, what do you think, Mandy? This is something I thought when I first heard it announced kind of appealed to you personally. This, as far as exploration, you know, just kind of this almost infinite hours of gameplay if you really wanted to do it that way. Joe, talk about No Man's Sky. Are you pretty stoked for it, or kind of with everything that you've heard or read, are you kind of holding back some of the hype there?
I like the exploration aspect of it. I'd probably wait. Of course, I'll wait a couple weeks before I pick it up, like I always do. Make sure all the bugs and stuff are kind of worked out. But I'm pretty hyped up for it. I don't care if some little guy got a copy of it and says it's not that great. That's just one person. So.
And I think Aaron, it does have a August 12th PC release.
PC, I was just about to touch on that. It has been pushed back for PC, which again has created a meltdown, just like it was pushed back for the console online. Everybody's wonder why. I think we talked about games being pushed back. I think you look at something like Arkham, Arkham Knight, I guess, on the PC, and how bad that was because it was released too early. Listen, PC guys, and listen, console people, chill out. Like, you want that game to be as best as possible, whether it's a firmware update right off or whatever. And all that's we all kind of get mad. And it has a massive firmware update apparently on the consoles when it's released. Like, we're talking I think it was like 4 to 6 gigabytes or something like that, something crazy, like a massive firmware update. So I don't know if that's stuff that they didn't get out, or there's stuff that we'll just go ahead and add this day one because this is, we had extra stuff we couldn't put on the disc, we're just gonna add it. So just chill out, everybody. You want it to be delayed, you want it to be as best as possible, and then you can complain about whatever else. But just chill out, man. Just chill. Just like Aaron Rodgers says, relax. RELAX, relax. You'll get a better game, I promise. All right. Well, that's all for releases. Go ahead, Daniel.
Let me throw in one piece of news there for you, Aaron, that I got excited about this week, and I guess it's a video game release, but I read that this week that what was a PC and Xbox exclusive, Inside, which was the follow-up to Limbo, is getting a PlayStation release later this month, which was a big surprise, and I got really excited about it because everything I've read about that game is saying that it's potential game of the year candidate. It's that good, and so I was really stoked about that, especially since Limbo I think it took at least over a year to come to PlayStation consoles.
It took a little bit, yeah. I was kind of surprised to see that, and to be quite honest, because I thought that was going to be one of those Xbox exclusives that could really push consoles. And this is a 6-hour game, if that, maybe like 2, 3 or 4 hours, 4 or 5, 6 hours, something like that. And it looks really good. I watched some, and I usually watch a lot of YouTube playthroughs. I didn't watch a playthrough, but this guy played it for like 2 or 3 hours, and I watched a lot of it. I thought, man, this game looks really cool. The Giant Bomb guys say it's a trippy game, like the ending kind of takes you by surprise, and there's some stuff that happens like, holy crap, didn't see that type of coming inside, as far as story wise, as far as narrative wise. But I was really surprised to see that. Actually, I didn't think that. I thought it would come at some point, but I didn't think it would be this early. So
less than 2 months.
All right, let's get into some wrestling talk. So we haven't talked about wrestling for a while.
Wrestling.
We're in the South. We call it wrestling. Right?
That's what you used to do when you wrestled in high school.
Listen. I didn't wrestle. I just got pinned. That's the only thing. I was a professional at getting pinned. So I'm surprised the superintendent didn't come to me and be like, "Hey, man, we need a count of lots in each gym. Would you mind, while you're down there, kind of drop me an email, man, with how many lots is in."
You were a jobber.
I was a jobber, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I was a jobber. This is how my masters went. Let's just say I was first time I ever wrestled. A little side note here. Jared is a great wrestler. Very decorated wrestler, and it was amazing what he could. I still remember one of my favorite moments with Jared was, I don't think I was wrestling then. Maybe I was. I can't remember. But it's when that kid from J.J. Kelly who had beaten you earlier in the year because he stalled the whole time.
In front of the school?
Yeah, that's it. Yep. And so the guy was trying to stall. I think you guys were tied, and he was trying to jump.
It was overtime, I think.
Oh, that's it. That's right. It was overtime. So he was trying to stall, get out of bounds. And Jared, he had a toe in bounds, and Jared grabbed his ankle and pulled him back in and took him down and won. Like, he was like, "Oh, no, you don't." He's just like, "Ah!" Just pulled him back in. That was one of the greatest moments ever. I think it was awesome.
Do you two need a room?
No, just saying. It was awesome. Okay? I'm bragging on one of my friends here. You're killing it. Joe's putting himself over again. But anyway, so my story was I was about 40 pounds underweight for a heavyweight. I was very small. I think I was like 230. Actually, I weigh 260 now. I've been much better at heavyweight now than I was in high school.
I doubt it.
Well, I would still got pinned, but at least I wouldn't have a weight, excuse. So the first time I ever wrestled, I walked in. Here I am, like eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and drinking a Pepsi or whatever, right? Because I'm a heavyweight. I don't have to lose weight. And I walk in, the guy that I was facing, he probably walked around, 290, Jared? Is the kid from J.J. Kelly? Adam, I can't remember his last name.
Hit?
Yeah. Yeah, so he probably walked around about 290.
Yeah, no, because 275 was max.
Yeah, but he was losing weight, so he was weighing. That's the whole point of my story. I was walking in eating, peanut butter and jelly sandwich, Pepsi, and here's this dude. I mean, he is already huge, and he's like weighing, like he is stripped down, butt naked, weighing, and I'm like, holy crap, what did I get myself into? So I ate the rest of my sandwich, drunk my Pepsi, and I was like, well, I might as well get something to eat out of this.
Yes, 231. Yeah, closing that gap.
But I got pinned a lot. It was kind of like, I remember our coach would be like, he said, don't get tied up with them. I said, all right, coach. And they blow the whistle, whatever, start. And the first thing I do, like, instinct would tie up because I've watched wrestling all my life. So that's the first thing that I would do, would tie up. And so he'd be like, don't tie up. And about that time I tie up and I just slammed on the ground. Like, it was terrible.
Hey,
like, I would just be destroyed. He goes, why'd you tie up? I was like, I don't know, coach. It just happens.
Is there a way to get that video of you and the dude from Dobbins Bennett and put it on here?
You know what? I think I have every match. I think my parents have all the matches recorded somewhere.
Like, I just want to see, like, the very first of this video or whatever, you just like flopping like underneath that dude.
I was trying to kick out Joe, okay?
If we could get that and put it on YouTube and link it to the site.
Let me say this: if you can get me a way to put this on YouTube, because these are some of my funniest stories. Okay, so I put myself over with comedy. So basically, if you can do that, we will get in a room and we will riff on me, and I will include.
Yes,
I will be included on me watching me just get my tail handed to me. That's
Monsters of Geek riff.
I will sacrifice my pride to get Monsters of Geek to the top. Okay, that's what I do. That's what I do. All right, so let's talk some brand split because we ain't talked about wrestling in a while.
Not like a good brand
split was about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago at this point.
There's been the 19th.
Yeah, 19th. So it's been a while. They've had 2 shows apiece now. Monday, Raw's had 2 shows. SmackDown's had 2 shows. Let's talk about the brand split first, just in general. Jared, you've had some pretty passionate. We've talked about. We've texted back and forth. And we've had some pretty passionate discussions on text about the brand split. And the brand split didn't really work out the first time. Well, it kind of did, and I'm sure we'll go over the history of that here in a minute. But Jared, your initial impressions of when they announced the brand split?
When they first announced that they were going to split it again, I
got a pretty long text from you as soon as, like, the next day. I woke up, it was like 8 o'clock, and you texted me like 7 a.m. And I was like, what?
Yeah, I just went into work, and I had saw the news. It popped up somewhere on my phone. And, oh, my gosh, I hated all over it just because, it didn't work before. The whole 2 champions for one company, all that, I just hate it with a passion. It just doesn't make sense. And of course, them coming up with a new belt, that was another thing, I think I texted you about when I heard about that. But overall, I mean, it's great for the people there just because they can, like AJ Styles, he's going to be the number 1 or number 2 on SmackDown. He's going to get a shot at the championship. He'll probably be champion. You leave him on Raw, and it's a toss-up because you got Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns over there. So I think it's good for the people involved, but overall for the fans, things just get so convoluted. They're going to do 2 pay-per-views a month now, or they're going to do network exclusive pay-per-views and then have their big pay-per-views on pay-per-view. I don't know how all that's going to work. It just, there's so many factors that go into it. It just drives me crazy.
Daniel, what do you think about the brand split? I think we were all kind of watching wrestling when during the first brand split was going on, when WB actually bought WCW and that terrible invasion angle was finally finished. They had a bunch of guys they didn't know what to do with, so they sent a bunch of young guys down to OVW. We never heard from again from WCW, and then they split and took some guys there, here or there. Daniel, what do you think about them splitting into 2 shows, having exclusive rosters for the first time in, was it 10 years, I think? Something like that?
Well, I'm kind of like Jared. I'm a little hesitant about it, but in the end, I mean, I think it needed to be done because they've got so many superstars. They've got so many good superstars down at NXT that they're wanting to move up, and everyone's just kind of getting pushed down on Raw. I mean, even though they moved it to 3 hours, I mean, it's just I really feel like it's a good opportunity for more guys to shine, more guys and girls to shine, and there's a lot that could go wrong. You never know how multiple titles are going to work. I don't like that. There's not a tag team title in SmackDown, and there's only one women's championship. Even though there's a lot more women than there were at the last brand split.
Women that can actually wrestle, and they're actually ready to wrestle.
Exactly. So. Actually competent wrestlers who are like over, and doing really well. So it could go wrong, but I think it's the right move, because I think that it's just like you said, Jared. It gives AJ a chance to shine, and gets Roman Reigns out of the way, for a little bit, gets him off TV for a little while. But it could work. I hope it does. I hope it works.
So the rumor has it, because that was one of my big issues too, is there wasn't enough belts. Like when they were doing the drafting, I thought, man, like this is terrible, because they drafted a bunch of women wrestlers, and it had been. I thought at that point they was going to have the champs jump back and forth, because they had Becky Lynch, they had Natalya, they had a bunch of NXT girls that can wrestle on SmackDown. I was like, what are they going to wrestle for? And then they said, well, no, everything's exclusive. They're staying. Whatever you draft is where the belt's going to stay. So rumor has it that after SummerSlam that they're bringing the tag team titles in and another SmackDown World title. So they are going to give, and they had some pretty good tag teams over there too. That's the rumor. Now that hasn't been confirmed. That was from Dave Meltzer. He's pretty good.
You're talking about another championship for SmackDown,
not
another
SmackDown Women's Championship, which I'm sure will be called the Universal Women's Champion if they go the same way, and then the Universal Tag Titles. I'm guessing that's what they'll call them, since they called it that on Raw. So, but I don't know what they'll call them. But I do know and that leads to tournaments, and I love tournaments. So that's perfectly fine if that's what they're going to do. If the tournament's what they're going to do, so but that's been the rumor. Makes a lot of sense to have the equal number of Raw will still have the Cruiserweight title on the roster, but it'll, as far as major titles for tag teams, women's and singles, I think that works out. Joe, what do you think about the brand split? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Do you just want to kind of see how it goes?
Let me tell you what, brother.
That's the first Hogan impression of this podcast.
No, I kind of hate it, and I kind of like it.
Okay. Tell us why you like it.
I like it because I think that anybody that comes from NXT should automatically be put on SmackDown.
Okay. I like that rationale.
I think you treat SmackDown like I know NXT is your developmental program, but you treat SmackDown to build characters up. I think that's what that they should do. I like the fact that you don't see Dolph Ziggler get a push. I like Dolph. I like the fact that you don't see probably AJ and Dolph feud for the number one contender once Dolph. They don't take the belt off Ambrose, of course, but I think you'll see a Dolph Ziggler AJ Styles feud, which I think would be pretty good.
So you like the potential matchups and then the younger guys coming up.
I do. The thing I hate about it is I think that once again they put more talent on Raw.
Yes.
They put all I'm not going to say old guys, but older guys on SmackDown. Your Cena's, your Orton. I think SmackDown should be where your younger people are. And, of course, it was just announced, too, that there's going to be cross. They haven't announced it yet, but it's rumored that there's going to be cross.
We'll have more invasion angles.
Yeah.
People, yeah.
Now, see, I don't like that part.
I don't like that part up until the big pay-per-views, and then that's fine. Like if that's fine, if you want to do SummerSlam, WrestleMania, that's fine. That makes sense. But I'm like you, Jared. I don't like. What's the point if you're going to separate? Why are they jumping back and forth?
That's like when Raw, when Raw and SmackDown were still separate, and then they would be like, all of a sudden, like John Cena was on SmackDown, but he appeared every night on Raw.
Right.
You're like, that's stupid. You let some people do it, but not everybody, and it didn't make sense at all.
I like the fact that we could see say AJ Styles wins the World Championship for SmackDown, and I don't know who's gonna win the Universal yet, but whoever wins the Universal it'd be cool to see them feud. Like if Seth Rollins wins, Seth Rollins AJ Styles feud to see the Clash of the Champions or something.
Yeah, and air it on TBS. That would be awesome. Talk about a throwback.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then you're going to create, like, you have those two feud, and then who's the real heavyweight champion? You know, it just, I don't know.
I think, I don't mind, because some of the cool stuff, like when I'm a Goldberg mark, so listen, I love good wrestling, but Goldberg's my dude. I like Goldberg, and you can write your hate mail to whoever. Monsters of Geek.com. You can write in how he's a terrible wrestler, and I totally agree. But he's not terrible. I mean, I've seen worse, but I like Goldberg. But one of the most exciting things was when, remember, I was Brock Lesnar had screwed him out of the Royal Rumble. He kind of jumped in and he threw him out, and everyone was like, whoa, And one of the coolest things ever was when Goldberg was on SmackDown. He bought his ticket, right? And it's Goldberg and Eddie Guerrero, and all of a sudden Goldberg jumps the barrier and spears Lesnar, and that allows Eddie Guerrero to win the belt. I think that was a great angle, and I like invasion angles if they make sense. But it seems like, because the Orton stuff with Lesnar, that was really cool. You kind of expected it, but then they started going on, and you're like, holy crap, they're not going to let Orton run out. And then all of a sudden, Orton runs out and RKO's him. I think that's awesome. It adds excitement. And they're treating them as two different shows because security ran out and all that good stuff. And then Lesnar did the same thing to Orton, and security ran out. It's cool. But it's only cool because we haven't seen it in 10 years. Mm-hmm. And I'm afraid that, Vince saw something and was like, oh, man, this is great. We should do more of this. This really got a good pop, And you're like, no, Vince, it got a good pop because we hadn't seen it in 10 years. If we see it every week, it's not going to get a good pop anymore. It's just not going to do anything. So
that's like the Dusty finish.
Yeah.
I mean, it was good occasionally, but then it basically sent the company under because that's all
they wanted
to do was, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great idea, but great ideas can be ran into the ground,
In the dust.
Yeah, so the struggle is, how do you keep everything fresh? I mean, since you've done this, you've freshened up the formula now. So how do you keep it fresh?
Well, I think obviously you talked about NXT, and I think that brings in something that could really help this. That there's always some kind of feeder system to bring new stars up. Because when this happened, there was no other wrestling company. There was independents, but this was even before the independents kind of started blowing up, which I would say, doing my research for a topic we're about to discuss later on. 2002 ROH was established, and that's when all the independent wrestlers or independent wrestling started to really shoot up. You had just great independent stuff. But the first brand split, WCW had just been bought out, and the only thing that they had was these stars that they could possibly bring back if they didn't want to, once their contracts was up. They didn't have no one to pull. And I think in this case, they can really, I totally agree with Daniel, they can really start bringing these independent guys up, have them develop a character instead of trying to just throw them out there and have them develop a character on live TV, and let them become this character. And people can hate Triple H all they want. He was super political back in the day. But what he's done with NXT has been fantastic. It has really made WB different than what it was even 2 or 3 years ago, as far as that. So, Finn Balor got one of the biggest pops on Raw when he first debuted on Raw because of what they've done with him in NXT. So I think NXT brings such a different dynamic that they can really keep these shows fresh, and especially SmackDown, because we'll talk about the roster in a minute. But do you guys think that NXT, like Daniel said, you think it will help this brand extension better than what it did when they tried to do it the last time?
I think it will. I think there's a lot of depth in NXT, but like Nakamura and Samoa Joe, as soon as they come up, they should be right at the top of the roster, but is SmackDown going to get treated as this, stepchild? When WrestleMania comes, who's going to be the main event? The Raw main event, SmackDown, even though, if you have Nakamura and AJ in a main event at WrestleMania, that would be a dream match. It should be the main event, but no, you're not going to get it because it will always be that Raw match.
Well, who'd you say was the main event? Who'd you say was a dream match? AJ Nakamura?
Oh, yeah, for a WWE event.
Yeah, for WWE, that would be amazing.
I've seen it in New Japan, and it's amazing, but, the American fans, just to be able to experience Nakamura and Finn Balor, that would be an amazing match to see just those two entrances on the big stage.
Well, it was an amazing match in NXT too.
Well, that's true.
So, but I think if they treat SmackDown, you bring your NXT stars up. I mean, we don't see dream matchup. You don't get a Samoa Joe, AJ feud style where it needs to be. And then like you said, Style and Nakamura. Even though that they're feuding now, Nakamura and Samoa Joe on live television. I mean, those are two strong style kings, pretty much. That you'll see on there. It creates. I think it helps creates dream matchups if they do it right. I don't want these guys going to Raw because I think they will get kind of hidden underneath your Seth Rollins and your Roman Reigns.
Well, let's look at let's kind of bring the rosters into this for just 1 second, because Raw is pretty stacked. And when the draft was going through, I thought, because me and Jerry talked about this, me and Joe talked about it, I think even me and Daniel talked about this. If they didn't stack, because you got to look back. Let's look at the history of the brand extension. The first brand extension did terrible for Raw because they did the exact same thing they did on SmackDown. They put all these big names on there, and there really wasn't much wrestling. The writing was bad. It was just Triple H all the time and all this stuff, and it was the same thing over. While on SmackDown, you had Paul Heyman booking. Well, the last time he probably booked, well, not the last time, but the last good time that he booked in WWE before the whole ECW debacle and they wouldn't let him book anything. And that was awesome because they put Eddie Guerrero, Kurt Angle, they had Chris Benoit on there. They had all these great wrestlers. World's Greatest Tag Team came up there. Taker was over there. Well, Taker was both shows because he was a champ. Even they had Hulk Hogan over there. So they had a good mixture of guys. But what really made that show awesome was because the booking and they was letting these guys wrestle. Well, then Vince got mad and they brought all those guys over there and SmackDown was pretty much a B show. So if they can let them be even shows, and if you look at the top 5 drafts, if you just look at the top 5, pretty even. So you got Seth Rollins on Raw, Dean Ambrose on SmackDown, Charlotte, AJ on Charlotte on Raw, AJ on SmackDown, Finn Balor on Raw, John Cena on SmackDown, Roman Reigns on Raw, Randy Orton on SmackDown, Brock Lesnar and Bray Wyatt. Okay, first 5 picks, not bad. They're pretty even up to 5.
Here's my question, though, that made no sense. How come Raw got 3 picks for every 2 SmackDown picks?
Because it was
3-hour show.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That still doesn't make any sense.
Well, it doesn't. Yeah, it I guess you can kind of see because the show is longer, but then the next week they're like, oh, we're gonna have cruiserweights. Well, what's the point?
But they just fill the show with more talking.
That's true.
Yeah, that second hour. The second hour is all talking. So.
Yeah, I hate 3 hours anyway. Because it's dumb, they don't know how to book it. They don't let the guys wrestle. They do 1,000 recaps, and it's just terrible. Anyway,
here's what happened 15 minutes ago.
A little less talking and a lot more action.
So the top 5's not bad, and then you start looking at the rest. Okay, and I love Becky Lynch, but she was their 6th pick. You got the Miz, and then it kind of drops off a little bit. You got Baron Corbin, which I'm not really for sure what they're going to do with him. Big one was American Alpha and the Dolph Ziggler. Okay, not bad. But then you look over on the other side. You've got the New Day, all 3 of them, going to Tag Team Champions. Sami Zayn, Sasha Banks, Chris Jericho, Rusev, Kevin Owens, Enzo and Kaz, Gallows and Anderson, Big Show, Nia Jax, Neville, Cesaro, Sheamus, Gold Truth, Titus O'Neil, Paige, Darren Young, Sin Cara, all these guys. That's an all-star team. Like, they go at least 15 deep on guys that could actually be main event guys if they ever got to push. They got all the good tag teams. They got all the good single guys. I have no clue why you put Cesaro, Zayn, Owens. Who else was up there? Let's see. Rusev, Chris Jericho. So I don't know why you put all those guys on the same show.
At least half those guys should be on SmackDown. And then Jericho isn't even going to be there for much longer. He's going back out.
Either that or at least separate Zayn and Owens.
Yeah, well, my question is, why don't you put, like, Owens and Neville over on SmackDown? Or Cesaro and Owens on SmackDown. Well, there's enough of a roster depth there that even with 3 hours, you can still fill in everybody else to do 3 hours and give some better star power over there.
I think the reason they put Neville on SmackDown is because they knew they was going to do the cruiserweight thing.
Well, that's true, and that's what kind of perplexed me was when they announced it's like, oh, cruiserweights will only be on Raw, but your roster is stacked. Mm-hmm. Like, I know you have 3 hours, but you can't fill it anyway. So why are you putting more guys? I understand you get 2 picks to every one SmackDown. I understand the time thing, but why why do you want to put? You have that depth of roster, and now you're going to put the cruiserweights over there.
Maybe we'll see a first hour cruiserweights, and then the second hour actually be wrestling instead of
the cruiserweight matches that have been going 15 minutes on the Cruiserweight Classic. You might get 5 minutes on Raw. You can't put the same quality of match out there. They can't showcase their talent. I think SmackDown will end up being just like it was before. It'll be the show where there's more wrestling going on, and the better wrestlers were always on SmackDown because that's the way they booked it.
Yep. And I hope it does it. Daniel, what do you think about the rosters? I know we've kind of talked a little bit. What do you think about the rosters as far as, and you kind of said the depth of it. Do you think they kind of stacked Raw, or do you think this is a plan where they're going to bring up Samoa Joe and Nakamura and Aries and put them all on SmackDown?
I think you're going to see them come on SmackDown. I think.
Joe, I said Daniel.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I didn't hear Daniel.
Go ahead, Daniel, before Joe, steal your spotlight there.
You could at least try to do it in my voice. That'd be nice. But
I had shades of The Rock and Farouk when they was about to feud, and The Rock used to interrupt them all the time.
I was putting myself over. Sorry, guys.
Well, don't apologize for it.
Well, I'm not sorry. Daniel, go ahead.
Thank you.
It doesn't matter what you say, Daniel.
That's his second wrestling reference. Not only is he putting people or putting himself over, he's stealing other people's things too. Go ahead, Daniel. Before you just took a drink. Hurry.
Okay. It definitely feels to me like they stacked the Raw show, but we knew they were going to do that. I don't feel like anybody is surprised, even though we kind of complain about it. Nobody's surprised. Raw's still going to be the show. It's probably got the most. I think it's got more. I'm sure it's got more ratings than SmackDown, but sure. It's always been the go-to show. So my hope is that they do bring those guys up to fill out both shows, really. But I hope that they make a real attempt to make SmackDown, on par with Raw through this. That's the ultimate goal, but at least for fans, right? We don't want to see a second-class show that they don't really care about or that they just throw people at. So I don't know. I hope it turns out that way.
Well, I will say this. I do like the one thing that I've noticed, and this is just a little bit of a good thing as far as noticing wise. I do like the way that they're shooting both shows differently. Like they look different. If you've noticed, some of the camera angles that SmackDown uses is completely different from the ones that Raw use. They're doing that kind of close-in shot on SmackDown where it's like right at the top of the apron type thing, and then they kind of rotate the camera around. TNA used to do this a lot too, but WWE does it better because they're just better production. But they're different, so they're trying to make the shows different. So I can applaud them there. They just, when these guys are ready to come up, I don't expect to see Nakamura on Raw. I hope not. I hope not to see Aries on Raw, Samoa Joe. They need to fill these rosters out a little bit. Maybe that's their plan. I still don't think we've seen the complete rosters. I think you'll see some, like Cesaro kind of cut a shoot promo after the. I don't know if you guys. I think Jared. I think me and him kind of talked about it, but Cesaro cut a shoot promo right after the draft. It was like, I'm kind of disappointed I'm going on Raw. He said, I really want to go on SmackDown where I could show people what I could do, and he said, I don't know. As far, and he could basically said, I've been told I couldn't do this, and I finally got a character that works, and now you're going to put me on a show that's stacked, and I don't even know if I'm going to get a shot. So, I think there's a lot of discord there. I think a lot of people saw a lot of guys that were drafted to Raw maybe saw SmackDown as a better choice for them, and now they're going to have to fight the top guys on Raw the whole time. So it's going to be interesting. I don't think we've seen the rosters completely. I think we'll see some guys jump here or there, but I do want to say this. I do have a rant right quick before we get off Raw and SmackDown. I had a conniption the other day on Raw, and I usually don't have conniptions on wrestling. A lot of times I just kind of roll my eyes and say, that's WB. A couple weeks back, actually a couple months back, when AJ and the club beat up Cena on Memorial Day, and JBL, who's the heel announcer on Raw, decided to be like, they should have done that. I mean, you know, I understand they want to send a message, but they should have never jumped John Cena on Memorial Day. All right, okay, fine, you know, whatever. Okay, so I thought, well, maybe that's just a one-time thing. JBL's not the best commentator ever. He tends to flip-flop. He's not really a heel commentator, even though he should be. He's heel one moment, then he's rooting for John Cena the next or whatever. It's terrible. So we go into SmackDown, and I like the Corey Graves kid. I think he's really good. I think he has a good personality. I think he's definitely, when he's on television, when he's on the mic, he does a really good job. So the club jumps. He's on Raw still. The club jumps, I think it was like last week. Club jumps the New Day. All right, beats up, throws them all over the place, just beats the living crap out of them. They injure Big E. So they come back from commercial, and they're all sitting there. And I like that they have the commentary things up, like behind. They're not on the floor anymore. They're up like old school WCW Nitro style. I like that. So they're all sitting there, all giving their comments. And then Corey Graves, I thought, man, this is great. He's going to cut a great heel promo about how, you know, the club needs to, you know, beat these guys up, show them they're here. They're going to take their titles, really make a statement. Guess what he says? You know, I'm all for people making statements. But attacking people after the match and hurting them and really beating them up for no reason. And I about lost my mind. Like, so much so that my wife looked at me and was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Of course I'm not okay. He's a heel announcer. He's supposed to be on the bad guy side." Bobby Heenan would, even in WCW, and we knew Bobby Heenan hated Hogan, ever so often he would be like, "But you got to give Hogan credit. He'll do anything to retain the title. And as much as I hate Hulk Hogan, I admire him for doing that." And they flip out and be like, "Oh, you going to join the NWO and all this?" Because he was a heel announcer. Even a little bit, I about lost my mind. So I want to ask you guys, is the heel announcing dead? And how long has it been dead?
It's been dead since they flipped Michael Cole.
That's true. That is true. Yeah. But I about lost my mind. I don't do that very often. Not with wrestling anyway. Now with Tennessee football games, I lose my mind from time to time, all the time, as Joe will probably jump in and say. But I just wanted a little bit of a rant there because that was just, what happened, guys? What happened to the bad guy announcer that was always on the bad guy side?
At least with King, we knew what we was gonna get every week.
Well, even King's a better heel announcer when he was on SmackDown. He was a great heel announcer. So I don't know. Come on, WWE, get your stuff together. All right. And by the way,
Maybe they should hire you.
I like the guy on SmackDown. I can't remember the guy used to call Pride Fights and called New Japan Pro Wrestling. I can't remember his name. Last name's Ronaldo or whatever. That guy's really
good. The guy's calling the Cruiserweight Classic.
Yeah, him and Daniel Bryan are awesome on that.
Yeah, they're really good together.
They're really good. Yeah.
We should start a hashtag hire Aaron Collier.
I'd heel it up. I already had it out with Bobby Eaton one time at a fairground in Lee County, so I know how to deal with those guys.
Wait, can you tell us that story?
Yeah, I mean, the story was that I had interviewed Bobby Eaton before, and apparently he took offense to how I interviewed him. Actually, I'm gonna break kayfabe here, but he was a really cool guy. Like, Bobby Eaton was really cool. And so somebody posted on Twitter he had been lost over the weekend. They found him. He was at some convention, but he's home now. I was like, oh man, Bobby Eaton, because Bobby Eaton, first of all, and Jared can attest, great worker, underrated. He could wrestle with anybody. Just great worker.
One of Stone Cold Steve Austin's favorite wrestlers of all time.
Yeah, I mean, he's great. He's awesome. He is. And he can wrestle single, tag team, whatever you ask him to do, he could do. But really nice guy. And so I interviewed him. Of course, he was a heel interview. And I was at ringside announcing, and he jumped out of the ring, and he started jawing with me. And at first, I almost geeked out because I was like, oh man, Bobby Eaton is like, he's breaking me with this storyline. Holy crap! And he goes, and you, what are you talking about? What'd you say about me? And I just said, I said you suck and all this stuff, and it just went back and forth, and it was great. That's probably one of my favorite moments I've ever had because it was pretty cool.
That's great.
Yeah, it was awesome. I've got to do some cool stuff with older wrestlers, especially with the guy from Rock and Roll Express,
Ricky Morton.
Ricky Morton, always getting mixed up for some reason. Ricky Morton had a strip club shirt on while we was interviewing him on local TV, and every time I see him, he always pulls out the I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night joke. Every time, like, he interviewed like 3 times, and he's like 3 or 4 years in between each interview, and he's like. And he always busts out that joke. I was like, I got applaud for consistency, but he had some kind of Georgia strip club shirt on. Jared, you was there with me last time. That when he had on last time, I walked back. He goes, "Did you notice his shirt?" I said, "No." He said, "That's some Georgia strip club." And and I looked back, and it was a Georgia strip club, like established 1984 or whatever. It was funny. But anyway, let's move on because we could talk about wrestling all day. All right.
Well, we're going to.
Right, we are going to. Maybe half a day, maybe not the whole day. Let's talk about SummerSlam just a little bit. Before we talked about that, we talked about the Cruiserweight Classic. I don't know how many people's watched it as far as that goes, but we'll just get a really quick kind of run through. Jared, what's your impressions of the Cruiserweight Classic?
I've watched the first 3 episodes, and I know they've been pretty amazing. I won't say every match, but at least 2 of the 4 on every card have been very fun to watch. And I like the fact, they're mixing it up. Having Tajiri win in the opening round was kind of a surprise.
And Kendrick, too.
Yeah, and Kendrick. Because there's a lot of USA wrestlers winning. And I was like, they can't put 2 USA wrestlers against each other right now. I figured it'd be later on, but no. Overall, though, it's been really good.
Who do you think? Who's your pick to win? We'll get picks to win.
Akiyama.
Okay.
Or there was another guy. I really like the guy from Britain.
Which one? Sabre?
Yep. Sabre Jr. And there was another guy. I'll have to go back and look it up. But yeah, those 3 have been really impressive.
Joe, who's your what's your impressions and who's your winner?
Why can't we just do Cruiserweight Wednesdays and have another live TV show?
Joe, because we have jobs and lives that we have to attend to.
I'm not talking about podcasts. I'm talking about WWE doing Cruiserweight Wednesdays.
Oh, just doing on. Oh, that'd be cool. I'm all right with that.
Have their own show. What's the dude's name? Ibishi?
Yeah, the big guy from New Japan.
Yeah, he'll win because Raw's already all over him.
That's true. Yeah, I think he'll be in the finals. I don't know if he'll win, but what's your impressions about it? By the way, you want to talk and then you don't give us impressions. I'm not talking about a Rock impression either. I'm talking about your impressions on the show.
Or
Okay, you went Paul Bear. Okay.
Or he wants to give my impressions for himself.
That's true. Listen, these are Daniel's impressions, okay? Not mine. Joe, what's your impression? Like, what have you thought about the matches so far?
The matches have been great. Like Jared said, all of them's been good, but you have a few great ones on each one. That's what I like about it. It's just not been in my personal opinion, a bad match.
Gotcha. Daniel, have you watched any of the Cruiserweight Classic?
I've not watched any of it, but I'm definitely interested in watching it now.
Okay. Well, homework for the next wrestling podcast. You gotta go back and watch all the episodes.
The first two have been pretty spectacular. The third one was solid, but it was Ibushi, not Akiyama. I don't know why I thought he was on there. But Ibushi, he was really impressive. And there was a really competitive match on that first one, and I watched that and I was like, man, it got me really excited about it. So,
have you watched the? I think on the third one was it the other Asian guy and the Cedric and the guy from Detroit, Stanley Johnson.
I think that may be on number 4.
No, it's on 3 because I just watched 4.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't think I've watched all of 3.
Okay, because he's the main event guy. He wears orange, and I know I sound terrible saying the other Asian guy. Joe's grin got super wide when I said that, but I can't remember their names. First of all, I'm not really familiar. Like I know Nakamura, and I know a couple of the different ones, but I'm not familiar with these guys yet. So, but he did more of he was a little bit more strong style than the Ibushi was, but it was a really good match because the Johnson guy was really kind of tall and kind of lanky for a cruiserweight, and of course he's shorter, but it was really good. Like it's a hard hitting match. So I hope you get to watch it soon, but it's really good. Now I'm going to talk about episode 4. I'm not going to ruin anything, but the Johnny Gargano and the Ciampa match was out of this world. It is. We're going to talk about NXT here, remember. They're getting a title shot against the Revival at NXT back to Brooklyn. Those guys put on an unbelievable match. And you talk about hard hits, storytelling. Obviously, 2 tag team champions wanting to go on. If you watch one match this year, go watch that one because that one was absolutely amazing. Just putting it out there. Jay, I can't wait till you watch because Gargano wasn't involved for a long time. Kind of a darling when he came in. Ciampa, I believe, has wrestled in Evolve, wrestled in ROH. There's a couple different ones that he had wrestled in, but those guys know what they're doing. It was a really good match.
I think the storytelling overall has been good because people are selling more than, you like watching watch ROH or, a lot of times it turns into a high spot fest where people jump up and, after they got hit with a big move and they're, don't sell a previous injury. But for this, I think they've done a really good job of that.
I think we're going to start seeing a lot better matches overall now because you're starting to get some of the kind of the rookie guys out of there that they just kind of pulled in because they're part of another country.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to start seeing a lot of really good. I mean, you're looking probably no less than a 3.5 to 4-star matches from here on out. That's how good it's going to be as far as matches.
Now I was really impressed with the guy from Mexico. Was that the one that wrestled Brian Kendrick? Yeah, it was. Yeah. Him and Bryan, I was really impressed with him. I figured they would have him win that match at least because he did a really good job of every all around. It was a really solid match.
I don't think you can't make Kendrick lose early, and there's another guy from Charlotte. I don't know if he's lost yet or not.
What was his name? Cedric Alexander, was it him or the other guy? The guy that danced.
The guy that danced with the flat top?
Yeah. It's not him though, because he lost. He lost to the guy from the Monster Factory.
Yeah, the dude from Charlotte, I don't think's lost yet.
Yeah, I think it's Cedric Alexander you're talking about.
Yeah. Those two, those are kind of the American darlings in there. You can't let them use just yet.
I tell you who I would choose, and he has I'm not going to, because it kind of ruins the episode 4, so I won't say who he's going to have to face the second round, but it's an interesting matchup to see who goes over there. It's T.J. Perkins. I was very impressed with T.J. Perkins. I'd seen him a little bit in TNA when he was Manic, not much at all, but that guy can go, and I think that he has a pretty good future. He already has a pretty good gimmick. He's decent on the mic already. I really like him, and I hope that he goes further. The matchup he has next is I like both of them really well, but I hope TJ goes over because he needs a little bit more attention than what he's had. But that kid can go. I really like him.
One thing that I think they should do is for when you get in these later rounds, when try not to fill all the winners brackets. Match some of those losers up in some of those matches, and give them a little more, give them a shot. Because I think a big majority of them could be signed, and I know they've already offered like 4 contracts at least.
Yeah, I think Saber's one of them. The Gallagher guy is one of them. Cedric Alexander, Gargano, Ciampa, all those guys are already signed. Ibushi's already signed. So there's a bunch of them that we're going to see more of.
I'm telling you, Vince McMahon, Cruiserweight Wednesdays.
Listen, you don't want Vince McMahon involved with this Cruiserweight thing in any capacity.
But he's the one that controls the money.
Yeah, but Triple H is pretty much calling the shots at this point.
Well, I know, but, I mean, what comes on USA Wednesday night at 8 o'clock?
I don't know.
Exactly. Nobody knows. Just
probably a rerun of SVU.
Just put a Cruiserweight Wednesday together.
I don't think we'll ever see NXT or Cruiserweight on cable television because that sells the network by itself. I really do think that. Yeah. The pay-per-views and those 2 shows, it sells the network. So.
Well, the Japanese people love it.
And everybody loves it. I WWE Network, I watch it almost daily at this point. Something, I usually put something on it. All right, let's move over to NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 2. Last year was absolutely amazing. I don't think it was as good as Dallas's, but it was really, really good as far as the matches. Let's run down the card right quick. NXT title match, Samoa Joe versus Shinsuke Nakamura. NXT women's title, you got Asuka versus Bayley. Asuka is the champ. Samoa Joe is the champ of the other match there. Bobby Roode versus Andrade Cien Almas. Now, some of these, I just spoiled that. Sorry. Spoilers if you watch NXT Weekly. These are matches that are pretty much have been announced the last couple weeks, okay, or at least a taping. So we're going to do a little bit of spoilers here. NXT Tag Team Tag Title: The Revival, Dash and Dawson versus Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, and Austin Aries versus No Way Jose. We'll round out the card there. So, and there could be a 6 match. The American Alpha comes down and faces the Authors of Pain, which is the tag team that showed up with what is his name? Paul Ellering. The last pay-per-view that they had. So that's been kind of not necessarily announced, but those are the ones that's the 6th match that may actually be on there. Let's just take it from the top. Samoa Joe versus Nakamura. This match is going to be hard to watch because it's going to be great, but they are going to beat the tar out of each other. Daniel, what do you think about that main event? Who do you think goes over as far as the main event, and how stoked are you to see these guys?
Well, let me tell you. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Well, actually, Joe, you might be more better in a place to answer that question because, man, I haven't watched NXT in a while, so I'm really behind on my NXT viewing. So I wish I could give you a good answer, but I can't.
All right, Joe, go ahead. Answer for Daniel.
Well, I haven't watched my NXT in a while, so no, I'm just kidding. No, with these two, I just hope, we saw it earlier, was it Dallas, that Joe got busted open when he was facing, I guess it was Finn. Yeah, and they was stopping the match like every 3 seconds to clean up the blood. I just hope we don't see something like that because, like you said, they are literally going to beat the crap out of each other. They're 2 strong style wrestlers. It's something that I can't wait to watch. I'm really excited for it.
Jerry, obviously, I think we're all pretty stoked about this, but I want to know.
Let's just say this: I'll be wearing my strong style shirt.
Okay, so who do you think goes over? You think Nakamura goes over, right, Joe?
Yes.
Okay, Jared, what do you think about the match? I'm kind of surprised to see who you think goes over because this is I think this is 50-50. But what do you think?
I don't think they take the belt off of Joe yet.
Okay.
I think they still let him run with it a little bit longer. But, you could have Nakamura chasing him. I don't know if they're wanting to use him for, to actually put a belt on him right now or if they're just using him to draw fans in. But I think it'll be an amazing contest, and they will, it could be better than the Baylor Joe matches.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is probably. I don't know if it'll be better than Zayn and Nakamura. I think that's probably the best match we've seen this year overall. I do believe it's going to be, even though the last Balor Samoa Joe match was really good. But I do think this will be better.
The last Balor or the Balor Nakamura match
was really awesome. Good too. Right. But I think that this is going to be kind of an old school. Obviously you're not going to see a lot of flipping around and stuff like that. These guys don't do it this way, but you are going to see a lot of hard hitting action. And I think it's going to play like, Jared's old school NWA guy. I think it's going to play like an old school NWA match. I think it's going to play like, Vader versus, I don't know, throw somebody out there, Jared, that worked, Mick Foley. But obviously more athletic between the two, obviously. But as far as hard hits.
If you want to go watch a good hard-hitting match, it's go watch Ric Flair and Tatsumi Fujinami from the first Super Brawl. Because when Fujinami left the ring, his chest was bleeding from all the chops that Flair gave him. And, it was a pretty stiff match back and forth. But, yeah, it could be like a Vader. Go watch Vader Stan Hansen.
Yeah, there you go. Vader Stan Hansen, yeah.
Because, Stan Hansen knocked Vader's eyeball out of his head.
Yeah.
And obviously there's going to be a lot more athleticism. Those guys are great wrestlers, but obviously not, actually you could probably make an argument Vader was a pretty athletic big man. But as far as what the NXT does, obviously not as athletic as some of these guys, but they're going to beat the tar out of each other. For me personally, I think this is the golden opportunity to bring Samoa Joe up. Samoa Joe's had a great run in NXT, probably there a little bit longer than probably what he should have been. I think you give the belt to Nakamura, sets up a really good feud with Bobby Roode. I think those guys would work really well together, and they're completely different characters. You've got Bobby Roode, who is more of a Triple H kind of serious character, versus Shinsuke Nakamura, who is going to be more of a showman, almost like a Shawn Michaels, kind of like a Shawn Michaels Triple H kind of dynamic there. I think that'd be really good, and I think it's a chance to bolster SmackDown and move Samoa Joe up and let him throw into this, him and Apollo Crews or whoever's going to win the IC title. I think that's great. I think it's a good opportunity. And a very and he can still come down and face Nakamura on a rematch, which I'm probably sure we'll get. But go ahead and move him up. That's a good chance to move up. So I think Nakamura wins. I think it sets him up with some future feuds. But it's going to be a great match. What do you think about this, Jared? I meant to do this on the draft part of it. You talked about dream matches at WrestleMania. Nakamura wins the NXT title. Say they bring him up somewhere around WrestleMania. Brock Lesnar obviously is going to have a match at WrestleMania. There's really no one on the roster now, and even Nakamura, you could argue that doesn't really need the rub from Brock Lesnar. But we'll just say that they talk Brock Lesnar into losing to Nakamura. First of all, it's a great match. First, it's a great match.
They've actually worked together in Japan.
Have they?
Yeah, I have it somewhere. I have it somewhere because it wasn't High Spots. It was one of the other DVD places. They were giving away the video. All you had to do was download it, and you could burn it yourself. And it had like 3 or 4 of Lesnar's Japanese matches on it. And it was him and Nakamura, and then he was in a triple threat, and I think maybe with Nakamura then too. So they are familiar with each other. But
I think that would be because Lesnar. I mean, I can't see him losing to Orton, obviously, because Orton doesn't need the rub off of that. He's faced guys that don't. Even Ambrose really didn't need the win, even though it would have been cool if he had beat Lesnar. But I think that's a perfect matchup. That is a matchup that not only gets pay-per-view buys in the United States, people will buy the network for it in Japan. All of Asia will probably, order WrestleMania. I mean, you're looking at huge because you've got a guy in Brock Lesnar that's a huge superstar in the United States and in Japan. Then you got a guy, Nakamura, who has ruled Japan before he came over. I mean, he was the guy. You put them in a main event match at WrestleMania, not main event, obviously it should be main event, but obviously the title's going to be main event. You put them in a match and you let Nakamura go over. Holy crap. Like, you have a global superstar. Yeah, like WWE always says, "Oh, we're global," but really, not really. I mean, New Japan Pro Wrestling is bigger than WB in Japan. Like, WB gets good, as far as good crowds, and they get excited because they don't go over there very often. But New Japan Pro Wrestling, people love it over there. You put one of those guys as a head of, put him over Lesnar. That's huge.
Yeah, I think it would be an amazing matchup.
All right, that's my rant. I've been thinking about that all week. Like, who at this point, because nobody's going to lose the Lesnar at this point, but Nakamura would be perfect for it. Any other matches, guys, that you obviously Asuka and Bayley is going to be amazing. I say probably Bayley will be called up after this. I don't know where they're going to put her. I say probably Bayley goes to Raw at this point because she's such a big superstar. You got Bobby Roode, and of course you got Aries. Let's talk about the tag team titles. Do you think the Revival gets called up soon?
I think they get put on SmackDown soon.
Daniel, what do you think?
I was going to say, I kind of got lost back there in the shuffle, but I was going to agree with you first off on I think that Samoa Joe's going to drop the title and move up. I think it should happen. But I was also going to say that I have to go, so I'm going to let you guys finish the conversation. I'm sorry to jump off on you, but
that's all right.
But I'll talk to y'all later. All right.
See you, Daniel.
See you.
We've been lawyered.
But do you think? I mean, it'd be obviously if they're going to put tag titles, they need to build up, and you just can't have the American Alpha on there. I like Breeze Dongo. I think they're pretty cool, but obviously moving the Revival up is going to be nice. And Jared, obviously, you would hope that they would have matching boots this time.
They just need whole matching outfits. I mean, if you're going for the whole Arn Tully thing, have matching tights, have similar boots. I mean, if one has white, you can have white with the red trim or something like that. But don't go crazy when have flames on your boots like they did. Still, small things like that is just what will aggravate you to do.
Unless both of them had flames on their boots.
Well, I mean, unless you're going to be like Harlem Heat or something.
Yeah, they need to come out in the Harlem Heat, old school Harlem Heat outfits.
Of course, like you could be like the Addiction and they used to have throwback whatever, and they would dress up as the Road Warriors and dress up as whoever, and I found that absolutely great. I used to send pictures to Aaron all the time. Like, did you see what they did? But yeah, I like the Revival. I think they work really well together, and they do remind you of an old school tag team. And I think they'll get the call up soon. I could see them losing this one, but hopefully you would want to kind of draw it out maybe a little bit longer. Mm-hmm. You know, you don't want just a one shot and then you lose the titles and you're gone. Most of the time you want to try to build for a month or 2 months to build up this feud and then have them drop it. But they don't always do things the way we see.
I think NXT has been completely rated of tag teams. And and I think that it would be nice to see the Revival kind of stay down there for another 3 or 4 months until Gargano and Ciampa. You got that big tag team with Paul Ellering. So they still have some guys that need to build that division back up because it's probably the weakest division in NXT, and it was one of the strongest 3 months ago.
You know who would make an awesome tag team, even though I know they won't do it. If you put Austin Aries and Bobby Roode together.
Yep, because they was awesome in TNA. Yeah, one of the best tag teams I've ever seen.
Or Eric Young and Austin Aries. Yeah. I like Austin Aries. I mean, I think he's probably one of the best workers in the past 10 years.
Lose the cape.
Well, yeah, right. The cape's awesome, man.
I mean, he can do whatever he wants, but I mean, just the way he works for being such a small guy. You know, they could bring him up on Raw and put him in the cruiserweight stuff. But I think overall he's solid all around. He's good on the mic and in the ring.
No, that's the only thing I don't like about the cruiserweight is you put him in one thing, and I think Aries can hang his own with some of the other people.
Oh yeah, I mean they put him. You know, TNA put him in there with Bobby Lashley.
I mean,
had him win. I mean that he's very highly respected.
I'd love to see like a Aries and Rollins match.
Oh,
and I think we'll see that. I think that my fear with the cruiserweights was that they was just going to pigeonhole guys again. I think they're not going to do that now because of Daniel Bryan. I think they're going to. I think the cruiserweights having their own division can really help them develop a character. And I think if you bring someone in like Aries, who already has a character, put the belt on him, let him run with it, he could really elevate that division into something that could be kind of like when Jericho had the cruiserweight title. Right? We love Rey Mysterio, we love Dean Malenko, but when you actually had someone that had a great character, not just, and I'm not bashing Malenko or Mysterio, those are great, they're great wrestlers. But then Jericho got it. He was kind of like a crybaby, and he all these loopholes. And he was absolutely hilarious, and he just kind of elevated almost to the point where Jericho those last year on Nitro or the pay-per-views, that guy was over. Like Jericho's music would hit, and that place would pop because you had a guy, and the cruiserweight title was almost like a world title match when he had it because everybody wanted to see him lose or thought he was funny or really liked him. I think that's what we'll have to do with the cruiserweight, and I'm okay with that as long as they look at all scenarios and be like, look, we want you to have this for 6 months, and then we're going to look at maybe like a U.S. title run, or we're going to move you up the card and face these other guys.
I was listening to Hurricane Helms on Talk is Jericho, and he was talking about when he had his run as cruiserweight champion, and it lasted for so long, and Vince finally come to him one day, and he's like, the cruiserweight title's not doing you any good anymore. Just because he had elevated himself up above everybody in that division, that they needed to move him up, which they didn't do anything with him after that point. Right. But he was just kind of running through the competition, and his character was the fans hated him at that point because he was so arrogant and cocky that they could have put him in an Intercontinental title spot or US or whatever was on SmackDown at that time. So if you have somebody that can do that, they can transcend, be like an Eddie Guerrero and be like that small guy who is like the giant killer.
Well, I think your first big feud, if you do the cruiserweight, if you bring Austin Aries up, is him and Neville. Well, that would be a wonderful feud to watch on Raw.
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked for the Cruiserweight. Obviously, we still like a long time before we see them. Obviously, they're probably going to wrap up the Cruiserweight Classic before we see them on Raw. So, but I'm stoked. I think it brings obviously a dimension we haven't had in a while on a major wrestling show. So, especially with it live and stuff, I think that works out really well. Let's move on to SummerSlam, and let's look at the card as far as what we know as of now. So we got Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor for the Universal Championship. We've got Dean Ambrose versus Dolph Ziggler for the WWE Championship. Sasha Banks versus Charlotte in a return match for the Women's Championship. Brock Lesnar versus Randy Orton. And you got The Miz versus Apollo Crews for the Intercontinental Championship, and John Cena versus AJ Styles. You're probably going to see the New Day versus the Club, Anderson and Gallows as well at this point, at least how they're kind of built up. But these, and also Rusev versus Roman Reigns for the United States title. I actually really like the card. This is probably one of the better cards that they've put out over the last couple months. As far as and to be quite honest, their pay-per-views have been really good. They've had quality matches. Guys have been given 15, 20 minutes to really put on a really great match, action-wise. But I think as far as I think this is probably the best top to bottom. As far as card that they've had in the last couple months, where not just the good stuff doesn't start in the middle of the card and go up. This is actually starting at the very beginning. I really like all these wrestlers, all these matches. So let's talk about the two title matches: Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor for the Universal Championship. Actually, we'll start at the bottom because we won't say that last. Let's talk about Miz versus Apollo Crews. A lot of rumors going around Apollo Crews about to get a big push, and I love Apollo Crews. I think he's got the look. He's athletic. He's decent on the mic. Jared, who you see going over in that match?
Probably Apollo Crews. I mean, I like The Miz. I know a lot of people don't like.
I like The Miz.
Don't like him for some reason, but he can talk, and he's not a terrible worker, and he just loves the business. Mm-hmm. It's something he always wanted to do, and I remember watching him on The Real World, and I've rooted for him ever since. Even when him and Cena were at WrestleMania fighting for the title, I was always happy to see him have success. But I think Apollo Crews goes over.
One of my favorite Miz stories, Bill Simmons he's a big challenge fan, like the Real World. He had some Real World people on there, and they talked about when the Miz showed up to like their 10-year reunion or something, or 10-year is when he was tag team champion with Morrison. And here he comes, and he brought the actual WWE Tag Team title. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever. Like, he showed up 10 years later, hey, look what I've done, I'm actually a professional wrestler like I wanted to be. So I thought that was going to be cool. Joe, who do you think goes over in this match?
Crews.
I think The Miz goes over, and I'll tell you why. I think that they're going to build this the way that even though I love Apollo Crews, I think it's much interesting to build Apollo Crews' character while chasing The Miz. And I think, to Jared's point, The Miz is such a good heel, and there's so many people that like him because he's a good heel and doesn't mind him to have the Intercontinental title versus a lot of people that hate him, and that's a mixture for a great heel champion. And I think that he can do a really good job of really, maybe not maybe like a 3-month program or something, but have Crews chase him for the belt. Have him cheat the win, have Maurice, interfere, whatever, and have him have a really good kind of drawn-out Intercontinental feud with Crews. Make it mean more. And have, once Crews gets a hold of it. We've got John Cena versus AJ Styles. It's been rumored that Cena's second season of his show has been picked up, so he'll probably be leaving. This is interesting to me because you had AJ go over the first time by interference. You had the 6-man tag. Cena's team wins last pay-per-view. Joe, who do you think goes over here? This is interesting because if the rumors are true, do you let AJ go ahead and beat Cena clean and build AJ up like they've talked about, or do you let Cena beat AJ and then leave?
I think you let Cena get hurt and AJ beat him.
Okay.
I don't think they will ever let anybody beat Cena clean in a feud.
That's true. Owens was probably the closest the last couple of years, but obviously Cena won the rubber match. So
if the third match, say Cena, because he just came back from a shoulder injury, have him re-hurt that shoulder, injure that shoulder, and air quotations there, and have Styles win.
Jared, who you got, AJ or John?
If like you said, John Cena's probably going to go on hiatus for a little while. I would think it would be good to put AJ over, just because he's going to be the star of your show. And Vince has even said, he's like, I wish AJ would have came over 10 years ago. But
much like he said with Sting. Yeah, same thing.
Yeah, but I mean, he's so good that he recognizes. I think that's going to be the future for a little while. I mean, AJ's in his mid-30s, so he can't be there forever. But he's a good building block.
That let me just say one thing. That's a good thing that you have AJ that's going to be a good face for the brand, and I think you don't see Finn be a good brand. But both those cats are in their 30s.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Cena's close to 40 at this point, correct?
He's probably in his mid-30s.
Okay. Because AJ's what, like 37, 36, 37?
Yep. 37, 38 maybe.
So, I think AJ should win.
Mm-hmm.
I think Cena's probably going to go over. I hate to say it. I just have this feeling that Cena's going to go over. If AJ wins, I'll be super excited because that's who should win. Because both these guys at this point, even if AJ loses to Cena, I don't think it hurts him any. But I do think to continue to add the credibility to him as possibly your number one at this point heel on SmackDown, I think he should win. But I think Cena probably goes over here. Moving on, Brock Lesnar versus Rand. Actually, let's touch on. We'll say the Club and New Day tag team titles. The Club's got to go over here, right? Like this is the prime opportunity. You hurt Big E, you can make excuses for the title, you can kind of protect the New Day, but also give a fresh face to the tag division. Jared, do you think the Club goes over here?
Here's what I would do. I would put the Club over and then have them interfere in the championship match and put Finn over.
I said the same thing the other day.
You solidify the Club, and they have all the titles that matter on the show. So.
I said the same thing. I walked over to the guy. He used to contribute to the blog and still does every so often. Is Jason, and I walked over. I was like, you need to let AJ recruit 2 people on SmackDown, have a Club on the SmackDown, have a Club on Raw, and have exactly what you said verbatim almost. Exactly there. So I'm in all agreement for that. Joe, who do you think goes over?
The Club should go over if the match happens, and I agree. Because, rumors have it that Vince wants to turn the Club into something like a...
That's a moneymaker.
Yeah, like an NWO was. But he doesn't want that many people, of course. But he wants him to be a legitimate threat to everybody.
I hope it starts at SummerSlam. I really do.
And
I think they can do something really cool.
And you could do something really cool if you really wanted to give them all the titles. Throw Charlotte in the Club. Put a woman
or Sasha. Yeah, throw someone. Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah. Or even bring,
let's talk let's run through the U.S. title match for you got Roman Reigns and Rusev. Just quickly, because I don't think both these guys, whether you like Roman Reigns or not, this could actually be a really good match. Jared, who you got, Rusev or Roman Reigns?
I think you keep it on Rusev for now, just to keep building that character. He's starting to get over, he's starting to get his character over, and the more you can have him do that, the better off he is. And losing to Roman isn't going to help him any.
Joe, what do you think, Rusev or Roman Reigns?
We've seen it once before, and I think we're not seeing it again. Rusev gets smashed. Cena done it the last time when he was building his way up. And now, unless they continue on the trend, you might see them punish Roman Reigns and him lose again. So,
yeah, he's still in the doghouse. So.
He is. So
yeah, I agree. I think Rusev goes over. I think they cheat to win, but Rusev does go over.
Yeah, I hope Rusev goes over. I like Rusev. He's a great wrestler.
Sasha Banks versus Charlotte. Joe?
Legit boss, son.
Boss. Could be another great match. Obviously, could be a scene, could be a show stealer. Jared, who you got? Banks or Ziggler? Or Banks and Ziggler? Banks and Charlotte.
I think you see Banks go over, but that could be a really good match.
Could be match of the night. So
yeah,
most definitely.
Very underrated.
I don't think you can't take the belt off Banks right now.
Because you just I agree. I think Sasha probably goes over. I think it's probably the match of the night.
And I think you have to build this rivalry up because Charlotte kind of tore through the women's division a little bit. She showed some weakness and everything to people, but I mean, she ruled the women's division for almost a year.
Right.
So you have to let somebody at least come in, like Sasha, and then once you bring Bayley up, I mean, you'll have Sasha Bayley maybe at WrestleMania.
We'll see. I think it'll be a good match.
Yeah.
Obviously. Let's touch on because we got one more thing we need to talk about because Jared needs to jump off here in a second. So we'll go through these. Dean Ambrose versus Dolph Ziggler would be really cool to see Ziggler go over. It'd be really neat, but I got Dean Ambrose. I don't think this is probably the besides the Brock Lesnar Randy Orton match. We all know probably Brock is going to win that. This is probably the one that it's going to be a great match, but Ambrose obviously goes over. Jared, who you got?
I think Ambrose goes over. I think they need to find a way to push Ziggler because he's a great talent, but they're not going to do it in that match.
Joe, what do you think?
Ambrose, and I think you see a feud between Ziggler and Styles for the number one contender.
Okay. And the Universal Champ, which is the dumbest name for a title ever. They should name it Universe Champion or something, but Universal Champion sounds like it's just dumb. Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor, possibly the match of the night. This is going to be, I think, a really, really good matchup. Jared, who you got as the first WWE Universal Champion?
So it'll be Seth Rollins, even though they should book the club as the top, faction. I don't see him doing it, but it should be booked that way. But they'll have Rollins going over.
Joe, who you think?
Baylor, baby.
Really well on a podcast, honestly, but Joe is flashing the Balor Club shirt.
Mm-hmm. No, I really don't think that. I think they'll probably give it to Rollins because number one pick and everything. Mm-hmm. But I think you're going to see an incredible feud between Finn and Seth.
I agree with Jared. I think that, like I said before, I think we're like-minded on the fact this could be a really good chance. And really, you don't lose a heel or a face out of this. They're going to cheer for Balor, and you could turn Rollins' face. I think a lot of people want Rollins to have a face turn. I think it's interesting. They're really building Balor, but I think Rollins ends up winning. I think you'll see a really good feud. They'll get a couple really good matches out of this.
You'll see the club come into effect. Maybe not this match, but later on in the rivalry, you'll see the club.
Yeah, I think we'll see him at some point. I don't know if it'd be SummerSlam, even though that'd be great if they did it, but I don't know.
If he comes out as the Demon, I gotta think that he goes over.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that. So that's SummerSlam, and it's still 2 weeks away, I think. So I think it's the 20th or 22nd or something like that. So we'll obviously have probably some more matches added, but that's what we know as of right now. So we'll talk about SummerSlam afterwards in another wrestling podcast.
Surprise turn. The Boogeyman comes back.
Yeah. Oh, okay. We need to talk about this really quickly. So as far as retexted me the night of the draft, actually the day before, and I just got home from work, and he said, let's do our own mock draft thing for it. And I said, listen, I'm not going to be able to get it up, and I'm not doing it after the fact. I just didn't have time, and I wanted to look good and be good, and we just didn't have time to do it. But then he brought up, he said, well, how about, I've been thinking a long time, how about we do drafts from eras? And I was like, all right, what are you thinking? He said, like the era, like the Attitude Era, the Nitro Era, and stuff like that. Well, obviously, my mind turns to, holy crap, we could do a whole era thing. And he threw out some eras, because obviously we all grew up in Nitro and Attitude and stuff like that, and those are the eras that we tend to kind of gravitate to as far as doing something like this. But the more we talked, the more we did it. Reed came up with a great idea, and then we both kind of started riding with it a little bit. So I got pulled in Jared on it, and I had looked at some of the eras, and I had listed it, and I said, put them in order. What do you think we should do? And of course, Jared, send me all this stuff. We should do this, and this. How many rounds and all this stuff. Pulled Joe in. Daniel's going to do it. So basically, what we're going to do, we're going to make up our own federation. We're going to name it. Each of us are going to have our own federation. We're going to do a draft for covering pretty much any era of wrestling. We're going to start, obviously, New Japan is in it, which is something that, Jared kind of mentioned. I was like, I think that's a great idea. We're going to do, obviously, Attitude Era, Nitro Era. This is going to be probably a month-long thing. It's going to take a little bit. I want it to look good. We're going to make it really big. I think it's a great idea. And Reed came up with a great premise to go by, and it was something that Reed loves drafts. He's always wanting to draft stuff, and I think this is probably the best draft. I told him the other day, I said, I want everybody's stuff in. We got to finish the draft first so I can get everything set up picture-wise, and I can have it on a schedule, and I don't want to, this be a huge thing that's elongated forever and ever because I just can't get stuff up to work on. And he takes it back, and he's like, man, I'm sorry. I didn't know that was going to be so much work. And I was like, no, are you serious? Like, this is the greatest thing ever we've ever done on Monsters of Geek, and we've done some pretty cool stuff. So I'm really excited about it. I've got the rosters almost done. I've got we have some rules, and I'm probably sure we'll talk about it once we get going. We are going to have a podcast talking about our drafts. And then Reed, and Jared doesn't know this, or Joe, but Reed proposed that we put together our own WrestleMania card at the very end of it, and would be our mega show for our brand or whatever. Obviously not called WrestleMania, what we want to call it, but and that would finish it up, and then we would have a podcast talking about it. So the way it's going to go is we'll draft out the eras, certain rounds for shorter eras, 3 rounds for longer eras, 5 rounds. We'll probably go over the rules. I don't want to keep anybody too long, but obviously you can't take Ric Flair 5 times. Once you take one Ric Flair, you're kind of out of taking other eras Ric Flairs. Jared brought this up, and even though Jared said I probably wouldn't do this, but he's like, I could just, draft 5 Ric Flairs and be perfectly fine on my federation, which would be, perfectly fine. But obviously that's not right. If you draft a wrestler in a tag team, they have to stay in a tag team, but you can still draft him as a singles wrestler. So, for example, Harlem Heat, say I want Harlem Heat in my federation, but I want Booker T down the line, I can still draft Booker T and be 2 separate entities.
Why Booker T, not Stevie Ray?
Well, because Stevie Ray had a terrible singles run.
Yeah, but you could book him in a great singles run.
It's already started.
Change the history, baby.
I could book him. Stevie Ray could be my world champion. He could be my Rock. Call him the Stevie. So that's what we're going to do, and we're super stoked about it. It's probably going to take a while. I don't know. I'm not going to announce anything when we're going to post it. We'll talk about it from time to time, but I really want this to be done, ready to roll, and have a really good presentation because I think this is going to be super fun, and I hope a lot of people read it. But other than that, I get to draft with a bunch of my best friends in the world, and we're going to have a really good time. So, just kind of watch out for that. Again, super stoked for it. Reed, great idea. All the pub goes to Reed on this one because he came up with it, and we've kind of fleshed it out from there together, and it's been really fun. So, I guess that's it for our first wrestling podcast. It's probably one of the longest ones we had because we love wrestling, and it's a true wrestling podcast when we talk about wrestler impersonations, heel commentators, and matching wrestling boots. So that we are true wrestling fans because those 3 things came up because we're very particular about how we like our wrestling. Joe, you got anything else to say before we get out of here?
Stone Cold Steve Austin says Monsters of Geek podcast is awesome.
That did not sound like nothing like Stone Cold, but it was bad. Anyway, Jared,
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Jared, you got anything to say, man?
I don't know if y'all have ever listened. Gallows and Anderson had a podcast. They don't do it anymore. It was called Talking Shop, and they were on Jericho's podcast, and it is hilarious. But that kind of sounded like Gallows impersonation.
It did a little bit, yeah. It did a little bit. And they also had a really fun, weird podcast with Colt Cabana years ago when they was in New Japan. Yep. And it was hilarious. Like, that's the first time I ever heard. I've heard of Gallows, obviously, but I never heard of Anderson. That guy's just, like, he's a hoot. Like, he's just hilarious. So definitely, if you can get a podcast, whether it be Jericho's, I'll have to go listen to Jericho's because I haven't heard that one yet. But if you can dig it up, Colt Cabana's wrestling podcast. What's the name of it?
The Art of Wrestling.
Art of Wrestling. Go check out that one. That one's, it's been a couple years ago, so you'll have to go back quite a ways. But.
And I'm currently listening to Steve Austin and Ricky Morton. It's not the Unleashed show, so it is kind of family friendly. I love Ricky Morton. He's kind of hilarious. So if before they take them down, because they only put about 10 of them up at a time. If you get a chance, go listen to those, or at least download them so you have them for later.
Just a warning, the Unleashed shows for Stone Cold, if you don't like cursing, do not
No,
Don't listen to it.
No, I mean, I find him hilarious, and I don't know if you've listened to him with
I've
his
listened to a
friend,
couple of them. Yeah.
with his friend Ted Fowler. That I think they're funny. They should have a show together because it's comedy gold. But yeah, any other ones, like I've listened to the Goldberg and Vampiro and Ric Flair, which the Ric Flair, they're not up anymore, but they were great. And the Tommy Dreamer, talk about somebody who absolutely loves wrestling, probably more than anybody I know. He said he is always watching wrestling. If he's watching TV, it's some sort of wrestling. And he stays up watching YouTube and anything on the internet. So that's a diehard fan right there.
I've just started. I just subscribed to it. I subscribed to the Unleashed one. I'm listening to the Vampiro one because Vampiro's kind of got a bad reputation. I don't think I've ever heard anything said good about Vampiro. At least when he was in WCW or anything like that. But he was on this one, and they had a really, really good talk about selling and some of the art of actually telling a story. It's very interesting as far as that goes. And he opened the podcast on. He had an epic rant about signals. And I'm the kind of the same way, giving signals when you're driving. Like I don't care if you're switching lanes or if you're turning. But he reads verbatim from one of the wikied howls or whatever. Yeah. Holy crap! He reads for verbatim, obviously in very Stone Cold style because he's cussing every breath. And he said, "This is how you give a signal," and he just reads it straight from the page, and it is absolutely hilarious. It's just great.
I love the Steve Austin show, both of them, the Unleashed and the other one. So if you get a chance, go listen to both of them because that's usually 2 hours of my drive every week. So
all right. Well, for Joe and Jared, I'm your.
Wait, no, stop. Man, Dusty's got to see us out, dude.
You're gonna make me do my terrible Dusty and Rhodes impression. I mean, it entertains you guys, but I don't know how much it's gonna entertain the masses.
Listen, you've heard my horrible Hogan.
That's true.
You were I didn't do a Rock. I just stole his punchline. You heard my horrible Paul Bearer. And then my horrendous...
Your Paul Bearer is pretty good, though.
And then my horrendous Stone Cold Steve Austin. So
that's true.
You'll do one and you'll beat me.
All right, we'll sit it out with some Dusty Rhodes here, okay? And we all love Dusty. We're not making fun of Dusty. We love Dusty. Dusty's awesome. So don't get mad and send me emails and I'm making fun of Dusty Rhodes because we're not making fun of Dusty Rhodes. But we love Dusty. So, Dusty Rhodes. Monster the Geek, baby. Dusty Rhodes, send us out, baby. We're gonna go Starcade 1988, baby. It's gonna be the Monster the Geek, baby, versus the Fabulous Freebirds. That's what we're gonna do, baby. Next wrestling podcast, baby. We're gonna do the main event. Dusty finish, baby, in a cage, baby. And with that, for Jared, we're out of here, baby. Dusty Rhodes, MonsterTheGeek.com. Go check it out.